Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you what it takes to take a simple vector graphic and turn it into a really cool die cut decal. Alright, well, the first thing you're going to need is a vector based program, something like Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw. I'm using Flexi 8. So with that being said, vector art basically is scalable line art. You can start out with something really teeny tiny or something really big, and the file size doesn't really change that much, and it doesn't lose resolution when you make it larger. So as opposed to, let's say, a JPEG, you make a JPEG really big, you're going to get really big pixels, whereas you make it really small, it looks better. Then it all depends on how you set up the file. But for the most part, we're just going to be dealing with a vector-based graphic. Now today I've picked a cool compass, and I'm going to make it as big as I can on the material that I have provided so that you can see what I'm doing. The cool thing about vector artwork is that when you do send it to a plotter for cutting, it's really clean and it's really bright, and it holds up pretty well in outdoor applications. I love die cut graphics. I love die cut decals, and all that kind of stuff. So without wasting any more of your time with that, let's go ahead and check out how it works. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be sending the graphic to the plotter. Okay, and the computer already knows what to do. The computer already has it open. All you need to do is just click the button. All that information is sent straight to the plotter, and the plotter does all the work. And it's a binary system between rollers and a carriage. So as the rollers move back and forth, the carriage moves left and right, and that's what causes the shapes to come alive on the material. It's got a little swivel knife in it, so every time the sheet moves backwards or forwards and the carriage moves left and right, it drags this little swivel knife over top of the surface, and it gouges a little line inside the surface of the vinyl, and that's what creates those really cool decals that you see everywhere. If you've ever wondered how it's done, this is it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send the compass. I'm going to go ahead and send the compass job to the plotter. Okay, now that we've got our vinyl cut out, let's go ahead and start what's called the weeding process. Now, I've set this up to where it's really simple. If you don't set it up ahead of time to where it's easy to weed, then you could struggle the more complex graphic gets. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. The whole weeding process is sort of like a take and leave sort of process. So we already know that the outside of that compass is going to be removed. So we're going to start with the top corner here. So this is some older vinyl, so it's not spectacular, and that's why I'm using it for this tutorial, because vinyl is actually quite costly. So we want to make sure that whenever we do something like this, if there's a problem, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You know, vinyl only has a couple years on the shelf before it's no good. This has been on the shelf for a few years. However, I have vinyls on the shelf now that are incredible. You know, once you start using like control tack and things like that, no other vinyl means anything. It's like I gotta use that from now on. Okay, so now that we've removed the outside, you can see that the compass is actually already taking shape. I went ahead and took the liberty to create these little boxes around some of the more finer details, like for instance this is the letter S. You can't see it on camera because it's all the same color. We know where it's at because the way we look at it, we can actually see the little lines cut into it. So, okay. Hey buddy, come here. Come on. Come on, Dusty. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come on. My cat wants to be loved on. Come on. And as you can see, all the letters have pretty much come out. You know, we got north, east, south, and west. I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the center. It gets a little tedious. It starts, you know, little dots and lines and things like that. But like I said, it's a take and leave process. You already know what your graphic's going to be when you send it to the plotter. So you know that the outside's coming out. So the next line is a line that needs to stay. So I've had people walk through the door and want a graphic like this, and I'll cut it out for them, and they're looking at it and says, how can you see those lines? And it's like, well, it just takes practice. I mean, you've seen it before. You know, if you've seen it, you know, hundreds and hundreds of times, you don't really think about it. You already know where the lines are because it's just a little bit darker than the surface of the vinyl. Now this is the procedure any sign shop uses. Print and cut has gotten pretty popular these days. When it comes to cutting, the principle is still the same, you just have to line them up differently. A lot of people are going full print because it's easier. It's less tedious. But in my opinion, nothing is cleaner and sharper than the die cut vinyl. You see, this is pretty amazing. Sharp lines. It lasts a long time outdoors. The only thing that really gets chucked out in this process, well, obviously the backing paper when you go to stick it on, and the transfer tape. Now, if this was a print and cut, you print the black, you laminate it, and then you put tape on it after you've die cut it. So there's a lot more steps involved. You know, you got to line it up just right on the printer. You got to line it just right on the plotter. You're using 2 layers of material. No, that's a lie. That's actually 3 layers of material, because you got to print the first layer, then you have to laminate the second layer, and then you have to put the transfer tape on top of that. So die cut vinyl is the best way to go when it comes to things like that. Now, had you know, bright colors, gradients, and things like that done in Photoshop, then yeah, I would highly recommend doing that print and then cut it, because it looks really, really cool, but it's still, it will lack the sharpness that the die cut has. So the first step is already done. You know, you have to do the weeding. Now let's go ahead and tape it up. This is transfer tape. I usually have a lot of scrap available for smaller decals, but for this is on 30-inch material, so I'm going to have to use 2 strips of this. Pull off a little bit. Alright. This is a method that I developed myself, especially for longer runs. That I used to work by myself a lot, so I showed my team members here how to do this by themselves. Because if I'm not here to hold the other end of the tape, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to wait for me to show up after an install or something? So, get a knife. Clean that up. Okay. And I will be using one of my scrap pieces for the top there. Hopefully this is long enough. Oh, look at that, just long enough. Alright. So when you have a big graphic, when you have a small graphic and you only need a little bit of tape to tape it up, it doesn't make any sense to use a big giant roll like this for a little graphic like that. So let's go ahead and break out the old squeegee. And you flow through it. Don't want to try to do it all in one go. But you want to be thorough. Now, if you're handing this to a client, say, here you go, sir. You want to make sure the edges are nice and clean, you know? Don't have to be super spectacular. Just clean enough to where it's presentable. Don't want a bunch of leftover, you know, tape hanging off the edges like this, or torn edges. I want to try to make it a little presentable. And there you have it. That's how you do it. Now the next step is sticking this on something. Okay, I'm going to stick it to this board here. Okay, and the first thing you want to do is make sure that your area is clean and dry. So what we're going to do is give it a little bit of alcohol here. Okay, make sure that the alcohol is fully dry before you stick it on. Alright. And what I'm going to be doing is called the hinge method. Now this is really good for like large pieces of vinyl when you're unsure. I get a lot of people coming to the door, oh, I need you to make me another one of those decals, I messed it up. You know, it really isn't difficult. Okay. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to start with one side. Give it a slight crease, not too much, just to hold it in place. Remove the backing. Oops. Remove the backing. Sometimes it cuts a little deep and you got to make sure that you get all of this paper from underneath. It doesn't happen all the time. Okay, a little piece right here. Alright, take a really sharp knife, run it through the paper. That's going to cause problems, so let's go ahead and clean that up. There we go. Now that we've done that, take your one side, keep it up in the air, keep it moving, don't let it flop around on itself, and then just go ahead and flow right on through it. Make sure you're thorough, get everything. Okay, take your tape off, so I don't want that getting in the way. Take your other side. Now the second side's always easier because you always have a little something to hold on to. So once you peel that up, you don't want to peel all of it off right away. Just pick it up and you hold on to it, it remains nice and flat. Careful this edge though. You know, when you're squeezing, it will cut you. If you've ever had a paper cut, you know they do not feel good. It's like being cut by a dull knife. Alright. Now that we've got that on, let's go ahead and see how it looks. Turned out better than I thought. Oh, look, I missed a spot. Now, you gotta be really careful. Say, if this was on somebody's car, you can't do this willy-nilly. You have to be really careful. But since I've missed a spot right here, I have to go in there and I have to take it out. The best and easiest way to do that is take the corner of your knife. Don't scratch the surface. Take the corner of your knife. Look at the vinyl just a little bit. There you go. Ta-da. Easy peasy. And there you go. Now I know which direction I'm going, huh? Let's see, I want to go further south. Because right here it's a lot warmer. Anyway, that's how you do it. Hope you like this tutorial. If you want to see me do other stuff and show you how to do other things, feel free to leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think. Alright, take care. doesn't use pixels, it uses pure lines, and it tells the computer tells the plotter where to go, you know, so the blade slides along the material easily. So no, that sounds stupid. Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you the procedure I use to go from a vector graphic on the computer on the computer. The only thing you really need is a vector type program and a driver for a plotter of any type. Now I'm using a graph tag and Flexi 8, but any plotter that make sure I look good. Alright, let's do it.